Castle Crag is a residential suburb about 8 kilometres north of Sydney's CBD. It also has historical significance in that it was designed by Walter Burley Griffin and his wife right after they designed Canberra, the nation's capital. It's been designed as an exemplar residential suburb that is based on respecting the character of the landscape. So rather than having the unsympathetic grid applied to it, the layout of the suburb follows the contours of the land and retains features and makes sure all the lots have views of the landscape. So it's quite a special place. My name's Drew Hamilton. I'm co-founder of PH Plus Architects, and I was the principal architect on this project. Welcome to Perch House. So the client brief was essentially to create a home for them to enjoy for many years to come, whilst being respectful of the special location and the wider context. The site is really special. It's a north-facing double lot with some really dramatic topography. Midway through the site, there's a 10-metre sandstone cliff that actually cuts east-west. Below that, you have the Castle Crag Northern Escarpment, which is pretty wild bushland, and that runs all the way down to the water about 80 metres below. And then on the south, you have this kind of very distinctive suburb of Castle Crag. So the essence of the design is essentially a response to the site. So the house mediates between these two conditions. You have the wildness of the escarpment to the north, and then you have the garden suburb to the south. So to the north, we elevate to capture the best views. We then extend out with a terrace that cantilevers 4 meters out over the cliff. And that allows you to then extend the primary living spaces towards the kind of stunning backdrop of the escarpment. On the other side, the relationship with the suburbs is a lot more introverted. Here we have a series of ramps that run between floors and roof. They define a buffer zone that sits between the dwelling and the public domain. And within this space, rather than the wild nature on one side, we have a kind of more domesticated, controlled nature fitting of the garden suburb. We then have elected to veil that buffer zone with a floating corten screen. This is made up of a series of fins, each one's configured individually to strike an appropriate balance between privacy for the residents and also engagement with the streetscape. So this screen becomes quite a defining feature. It runs on 3 sides of the house, providing privacy, but then stops to frame these fantastic views north to the escarpment. So it becomes a kind of single legible response to the site itself. Upon entering, you come into a quite dramatic hallway, which is light and airy with light coming in from above, clear story glazing. That brings you through to the main primary living space, which runs the full depth front to back. So you start to get this understanding of the relationship between the escarpment and the suburb and the two kind of different characters. And then you have the primary accommodation on the upper floor, which includes a kind of bespoke office space and the client's master bedroom and ensuite. All of those have this kind of relationship to open out to the north with these elevated views. And then going downstairs, you've basically got 3 other bedrooms, 2 of which face the escarpment and 1 addresses the buffer zone. It's a little bit more separate. You also have garage, wine store, laundry on the lower level, and you open out as well onto a swimming pool. Quite a modest swimming pool, but it projects out underneath the cantilever and basically gives you water-to-water views on that lower level. Last but not least, you have a series of ramps that provide step-free access up to the roof terrace. As part of the overall design, we're always trying to kind of provide this kind of indoor-outdoor living in a temperate climate. So part of the detailing with that is creating flush thresholds and glazing that can fully disappear. The materiality ties into that as well. So some of these materials start to continue inside within the home. So for example, there's a lot of exposed concrete. The sandstone runs internally. It's beautiful. So you end up with these series of spaces where you've got the same materials as you do inside and out, and you've got glazing that disappears, you've got planting, greenery. You really start to feel that the home is kind of open and engaging with the exterior. The house is really all about allowing the client to celebrate and enjoy this dramatic site. So the detailing feeds into that, where it's, clean, calm, decluttered, basically not drawing attention to itself, deliberately to try and leave enough space to focus the attention to the exterior wherever possible. I kind of moved here almost a decade ago, and to come halfway around the world and meet a client with a site like this and have an opportunity to design for a wonderful client on a wonderful site, it's still kind of pinch yourself a little bit. They always say behind every good project there's a good client, and that's very much the case. They've kind of been incredibly supportive and open. It's been a real dialogue. It's been a real pleasure. And then engaging with a team of professionals to actually deliver that, including the builder, and managing to deliver such a high level of finish for a client that deserves it. Yeah, it makes me very proud of what we've been able to achieve.